Greetings, everyone. Well, about time we got back to the Halloween stuff, considering Halloween is only a few days away. Alrighty, let's not waste any time, shall we? Let's see what we got in the treasure chest o' horror. Today, this is an old favorite. We have War of the Worlds, the TV series. Yeah, this is something some of you may not even know exists. Well, in 1988, they did a TV series of War of the Worlds. Specifically, thanks for looking after those for me, Sam. Specifically, the TV series was actually a sequel to the 1953 movie, a classic of alien invasion films of yesteryear. And the TV series itself ran for 2 seasons, and this is both of them right here. You can get them individually or as a 2-pack, which has both seasons packaged together. There is no actual complete series set. It's just the 2 seasons packaged together, and I think you save a few bucks. As always, there will be Amazon links in the description if you want to pick it up for yourself. But for now, let's talk about War of the Worlds today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Now you may be wondering, hey, Sean, isn't War of the Worlds more of a sci-fi thing? Why are you talking about it for Halloween? Well, because, quite frankly, it's scary as hell, not to mention gory as hell. I would actually classify War of the Worlds as full-blown sci-fi horror. Yes, an early entry of sci-fi horror. So first off, we'll just talk a little bit about this lovely special edition DVD of the 1953 movie. Sadly, we still don't have this on Blu-ray. I really wish we did, because I would love to get this on Blu-ray. I think it would look fantastic. So this is the special collector's edition, which came out a few years ago. It's very... oh, it's got the clips on it. Hold on a second. Or rip apart the case. It's very nice. There's no insert, just a disc in a case. Nothing special. But whatever. But what makes this special is it's a beautiful transfer of the film, well, you know, as beautiful as DVD can be. Anamorphic widescreen, and it is absolutely loaded with special features. We've got commentary by actors Anne Robinson and Gene Barry, a second commentary by film director Joe Dante, film historian Bob Burns and Bill Warren, author of Keep Watching the Skies. We've got The Sky is Falling, Making the War of the Worlds. H.G. Wells, the father of science fiction, because of course the original War of the Worlds was an old H.G. Wells novel. The Mercury Theater on the Air presents the War of the Worlds radio broadcast. So yes, this even includes the 1938 Orson Welles radio show that panicked the nation. Well, the U.S., you know, where people would tune in partway through and thought there was an actual alien invasion going on. Yeah, great stuff. Then we have the original theatrical trailer. It is in... sorry, I said anamorphic widescreen, didn't I? Yes. My mistake. It's not actually a widescreen movie. This is one of those... it's kind of on the cusp of when widescreen started to catch on. 1953, so it's actually full frame format. You're not missing anything. That is correct. It's supposed to be that way. You got Dolby Digital English 2.0 surround, the original English mono track, French mono, and then English subtitles. So there you go. Pretty nice selection of features there, and playing, you know, language options for folks. So, fast forward to 1988. 35 years later, we got a TV series based on the 1953 movie. So it's pretty cool. I really like the fact that they decided to do this as a continuation of the movie. So this literally is set 35 years after the movie. The whole idea being that this was the original alien invasion. Oh, but wait, it doesn't stop there. They also make pretty strong references to the 1938 radio broadcast. Yes, this TV series makes both the radio broadcast and the movie part of its canon. The logic being that the 38 radio broadcast was kind of a scouting scouting party, sort of scouting out Earth for the real invasion to come several years later in 1953. And it actually works really well. Like the way they reconcile all these different versions of the story together into one unified continuity, it actually works quite well. Now, the thing I always liked about this show was that at the time, you have to understand, this was 1988. There wasn't a lot of blood and guts on TV at the time. Nowadays, it's all over the place. You know, Game of Thrones and Walking Dead and Dexter and Breaking Bad. I mean, blood and guts is pretty commonplace on TV now. American Horror Story. You know, there's a lot of stuff. But back in 1988, we were just coming out of an era where TV was fairly, I don't know, I don't want to say sterile, but it was very safe. You know, safe for family viewing. I mean, you have murder mysteries and stuff like that, but there wasn't anything really. Well, and even horror shows weren't particularly over the top with their depictions of graphic violence. It was very toned down for television. But in the late 80s to the early 90s, they really started to push the envelope of what was acceptable on TV. So you would get into the primetime area, and you get stuff like War of the Worlds, which could be quite graphic and gory at times. Nowadays, it might seem a little bit tame compared to the bloodbaths that splash across our screens on a daily basis now, but, you know, nearly, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, it was a pretty big deal, and it was somewhat controversial. I remember there was a lot of other shows on around the same time, such as, like, horror shows, such as Friday the 13th, the series, Freddy's Nightmares, and Nightmare on Elm Street, the series, which got a lot of negative press because of their graphic depictions of violence and gore. And but that said, while it was all shocking and, you know, horrifying back then, it paved the way for the more open television that we have now, and also paved the way for the rating system we have on television now, which did not exist back then. Television was actually the last thing to get a rating system. It basically started with movies getting ratings, then video games got ratings, and then finally television got ratings. So now, you know, it's very clear what each show is rated, and, well, it's up to the responsible parents to make sure their kids aren't watching stuff that they shouldn't be. But back in 1988, there was no such system in place, so pretty much if you got stuff like this as a sci-fi horror nut, it was kind of a treat. So the thing I really enjoyed about this series is, now it is kind of low budget by today's standards. It was filmed in Canada, actually in Toronto, near where I used to live, and it does look like a Canadian show made in the 80s. But for all its low budgetness, it's actually got a pretty damn good ongoing story. So if you can kind of look past its you know, production shortcomings, the storyline itself is actually quite good. I mean, it essentially follows a team of scientists, one of which was present at the original invasion as a kid, and you see that in flashbacks in the first episode, and since went on to study alien life and things like that. So anyway, it's a small band of scientists that are brought together. Each one has sort of a specialty. You got the computer wizard guy, you got the soldier guy, you got the quirky scientist guy, you got the biologist woman, and stuff like that. And, you know, secret government divisions who kind of set them up in their own headquarters. And they're basically investigating the aliens, which are suddenly reappearing after 35 years, and trying to figure out what's going on and how they can stop it. And it's really good stuff. I really enjoyed it a lot. I've actually watched the entire series all the way through several times. I watched it pretty faithfully when it was originally on. I missed about the last half of the first season because I moved. Actually, this is when I moved to Selkirk, if you've seen in the retro episodes. So I moved to Selkirk and caught the last bit of the first season. Then it went on to the second season. Now, the first season very much feels like a sequel to the movie. It's very much a straight continuation of the movie and carries on in that tradition. Now, I don't know what happened exactly. I've never really sort of found out what the behind-the-scenes story was, and there's no extras on the DVDs to shed any light on this, unfortunately. I'll talk about the DVDs a little more in depth in a moment. But the second season, they basically decided to reinvent the whole darn thing. So it starts off with a second wave of aliens showing up and wiping out the original invasion force. Just saying, yeah, you've had 35 years to get this done. We're tired of your crap. We're taking over now. So they basically wipe out the original invasion force, which dates back to 1953, and they take over the invasion. And they have a very different approach to it. Basically, where the aliens from the first one would physically take over the bodies of people and become them. Basically, kind of like absorb, kind of like the Thing. Actually, they would absorb into the person's body and become them and take over. So the original person would die, but then the alien would take over their body and impersonate them for a while, for whatever means. But then the second season, those aliens worked a little bit differently. They would kidnap people and then clone them. So they would have their clones running around out there, but they'd keep the originals back at their alien headquarters, kind of thing. So it was very different, and they were much more subversive in that they were trying to infiltrate government agencies and stuff. The other thing was the second season, basically, it's never really explained. It's just kind of left ambiguous. But what appears to have happened is when the second aliens came along, they did something that just completely wiped out the infrastructure of Earth. So when we come into the story after a very short intro, it's essentially a post-apocalyptic dystopia. So the entire second season is in this post-apocalyptic world where things are not going well for the humans at all. I should mention also, just the series in general, one of the things I really liked about it, I was about 15, 16 when it came on, so this aspect of it really impressed me at the time, and still does to this day, because you didn't see this a lot in these types of shows. The good guys don't always win. There's a lot of episodes where it's very clear that there is no way they can stop the aliens in this particular plan of theirs, and they just got to try to survive what's going on. And I thought that was great. I thought that was really daring at that point in time, because you just did not see that kind of thing very often. So it's an ongoing effort. They sort of put the pieces together as they go, and sometimes, the aliens are trying to do something, revive more of their people or whatever, and they're just too late. They put the pieces of the puzzle together too late, and they can't stop it from happening. And I thought that was great. I really liked the fact that the good guys didn't always win, because it really gave you the impression that there was a lot at stake, that they were against insurmountable odds trying to stop these aliens. And to me, that just made it better. It made it more real and more interesting, because you didn't know where it was going to go next. There's so many twists and turns along the way that it really keeps you guessing, and to me, that's what made it so great. A lot of people didn't like the second season and how they changed the look and feel and tone of it, but I really dug it, actually, because I've always liked post-apocalyptic stories anyway, and dystopia stories. Hell, one of my favorite movies of all time is Blade Runner. Do the math. So yeah, it's very Blade Runner-esque, very much. It reminded me a lot of the dystopian world of Max Headroom. If any of you remember the show Max Headroom, great show if you've never seen it. If you haven't seen it, see it, because it's great. I'll do a video about it one of these days. But I really liked it. I thought it was, again, very daring for them to just completely turn the show on its head and take it in this completely different direction. On the one hand, it was kind of disappointing that it distanced itself so much from its roots with the radio show and in particular the movie. But at the same time, it was refreshing that they were, it's like they kind of used that as their jumping off point. It's like, okay, we're going to go off in this direction now. Then unfortunately, I guess it didn't. A lot of, enough people didn't like it, so after the second season it got canceled. However, the good news is they clearly got enough advance notice that they were being canceled that they were actually able to give the show a proper ending. So it actually does have an ending. So it's one of those rare cases where you have a short-lived show, only ran 2 seasons, but it actually has a proper ending that wraps up the story. Now, some fans don't like the ending. I think it's fine. I'm just happy that it got an ending. So many shows that I've enjoyed over the years have just been canceled after a season or 2 and left hanging in midair, never to be resolved. I love the fact that War of the Worlds at least got a proper ending. So that was pretty cool. I should mention also, Highlander fans of Highlander the TV series, might want to take note that Mr. Adrian Paul is one of the big main characters of Season 2 of War of the Worlds. This is what he did right before he did Highlander. So if you're a Highlander fan or Adrian Paul fan, check out War of the Worlds, because he's a major character, like a very central character in Season 2. And pretty cool. So, I mean, when I saw the first pictures from Highlander, the series appearing, I was like, oh, hey, it's that War of the Worlds guy. But of course, for most people, it's like they see War of the Worlds, and they're like, oh, hey, it's that Highlander guy. Now, something I should mention about the DVDs here. This set originally came out around the same time that the Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise War of the Worlds movie came out. Clearly just quickly thrown together as a cash-in and nothing more. This one came out several years later. In fact, I didn't think it was ever going to come out, but it finally did. I actually just got this recently, which is why I've never done any videos about this really before. So this is kind of partly an update as well as a review. But yeah, so the second season came out just out of nowhere, and I was like, oh my god, they actually finished it. So yeah, so finally got the set complete and stuff like that. Mind you, I had all the episodes on VHS. I'd taped them off of repeats, some of which were off the original airings and stuff. And you know, I've had the show in one form or another for years, but it's definitely nice to have them in a nice compact DVD set like this, because of course I would record everything in SP mode on VHS. Now, for those of you who don't know all the terminology, basically SP mode would give you a total of 2 hours of running time for one VHS tape. The reason being, it gives you much better picture and sound quality than the slower speeds, which give you longer running time. So I would record everything in SP mode, which means 2 hour running time. I only had 2 episodes per tape. There's 44 episodes total. So 22 VHS tapes. How many tapes would that be? Let's find out, shall we? Okay, so to put this in perspective here, let's just make some room. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay, season 1 was 24 episodes, so that would be 12 tapes. Season 2 was 20 episodes, so that would be another 10 tapes. So that's how many it would be right there. Can you see all that? Can we get the full stack? Here, let's see if you can actually see this here. There we go. 22 VHS tapes right there. So that's how many tapes it would be for the entire series of War of the Worlds. Now condensed down to that. Not even the thickness of 2 VHS tapes. Pretty amazing. And just think, if they start shoveling standard def content onto Blu-ray, that could be a couple of Blu-ray discs. You know. So, yeah. Try not to drop these all over the floor. Now, as to the DVDs themselves, I think I mentioned earlier, they are bare bones. Yeah. So this one was basically just a blatant cash-in on the Tom Cruise movie. This one was basically, I guess this sold sufficiently as like, yeah, what the hell, let's throw out season 2. There's no special features on any of them. Packaged slightly differently. So we got season 1 here. That's Colonel Paul Ironhorse, the soldier. And we have Dr. Suzanne McCullough, the biologist. And Dr. Harrison Blackwood, the quirky scientist, played by Jared Martin, who some of you may recall from some 70s TV shows. And if we just take a look at just the discs here, there we go. So they just look like that inside. Pretty nice. And I'm not going to bother showing you all of them. Suffice it to say, they all look pretty much the same. And then on the back, you've got the episode listings for each 2-disc set there. Alrighty, so pretty cool. And then season 2, being a few years later, they didn't do it in the same style. I would have liked it if it was in the same style. I actually like this style. I wish this had stuck around longer, having the slipcase with the slim packs in there. So it keeps the discs nice and separate, and you can have a lot more package art inside. Anyway, Season 2, they just put into a standard keep case, not even color disc art anymore, that lists the episodes on the inside of the sleeve, and they aren't stacked discs, which is nice, so you got them all separate, which is pretty cool, and there you go. Now, one issue I have with this set, specifically with the first season, and this is an issue that a lot of fans have with it. Now, with the original airings of the episodes and the repeats, the intro to each episode was split into 3 parts. So first you would have the opening title sequence, which had just an awesome, epic, militaristic, synthesizer-filled theme song. I always really loved the theme song for Season 1 in particular. There was a couple of variations of it. They switched it up a little bit to one with a little bit more punch, but it's still basically the same song. They just added a little bit to it about halfway through the season. So they would start off with the theme song and the main characters and clips, typical 80s intro type of thing. Very cool stuff. Then the intro would fade out, and then it would fade in to this shot of the Earth. Basically a very early CG shot of the Earth. It wasn't very often you saw CG on television at the time. So you'd have this beautiful CG shot of the Earth hanging in space, and this sort of ragged, spacey wind sound would start to pick up, and it would gradually get louder and louder. And as it picked up and it kind of zoomed in on the Earth, you saw these 3 long bulbous fingers come up from behind the Earth and curve around, and it was an alien hand reaching around to clutch the Earth. So it would reach up and clutch the Earth, and as its fingers curved around, it would fade down to black from the top down. So it would just kind of match where the fingers were. It was a really effective shot that helped to set the mood. So then, when it's black, the screen stays black for a few seconds, and you hear a single line of dialogue from the episode. Just something one of the characters say, usually something really creepy, especially when taken out of context. So these 3 elements would begin every single episode of War of the Worlds. And it was great, because it really set the tone, it set the mood, and it got you excited for the episode, because you'd hear this creepy quote and not know what the context was, and you just have to keep watching to find out what it was related to. And it was great. Every episode started like that. Another interesting sort of quirk was the episodes of Season 1 all had biblical references in the titles. For example, Episode 1 and 2 was the resurrection. Then we had the walls of Jericho, Thy kingdom come, a multitude of idols, eye for an eye, the second seal, Goliath is my name, to heal the leper, the good Samaritan, Epiphany, among the Philistines, choirs of angels, dust to dust, he feedeth among the lilies, the prodigal son, the meek shall inherit, unto us a child is born, the Last Supper, vengeance is mine, my soul to keep, so shall ye reap, the raising of Lazarus, and finally the season finale, the angel of death. Really cool stuff. I don't know. I don't even know why they did that. I think it was just to make it seem a little bit more epic, having the ancient biblical references in there. So it's kind of cool. But here's the thing, okay? For all the coolness of that 3-part intro that kicked off every single episode and just made it extra creepy and awesome, you know what they did for the DVD? They cut out that cool thing about with the hand reaching around the Earth. Why? In fact, it was so clumsily cut out of the episodes, you actually see brief single frame flashes of it at the beginnings of some episodes. So it goes from the titles to the black screen with the quote, and then it goes into the episode. But without that shot of the hand going around the Earth, it really is losing something. It might not sound that big. I'm almost thinking like whoever was producing the DVD thought that it was like an eye catch, like a go-to-commercial thing, but it wasn't. It was part of the opening title sequence. It was a significant, visual set-the-tone part of every single episode. And doesn't it stand to reason that it would be more trouble and more effort to go to the trouble of cutting that out of every single episode than to just leave it intact? I don't know. Somebody clearly dropped the ball there. I mean, just simply watching the frickin' intro, you could see it's a part of the intro. There is absolutely no reason that should have been cut out. So I don't know. That's my one complaint with the set is they cut out the hand clutching the earth. That's why I described it in such detail, because you don't see it in the set. Now, as for the quality, it's okay. This is one of those shows that was shot on film but edited and mastered on standard def video. So this is literally as good as it's ever going to look. Don't hold out for a Blu-ray. It's not going to happen. We're lucky to have it even on DVD. So if you want it, just get it. It's never coming to Blu-ray. And if it does, it's just going to be the exact same masters thrown onto a Blu-ray disc. So the only benefit you'll get is maybe a slightly higher bit rate and, fewer discs. But that's it. But honestly, I don't see that happening for a very long time, if ever. So just get the DVDs. And I think that pretty much wraps it all up. I babbled about War of the Worlds far longer than I intended to because, well, quite frankly, it's one of my all-time favorite sci-fi horror shows, and I love it. And now that I have the complete series, I'm going to sit down and marathon the hell out of it again and enjoy it all over again, right from episode 1. It's good stuff. Alrighty. As always, as I mentioned at the top of the show, if you want to get these for your own collection, you can find Amazon links in the description. Appreciate the support. Yes, they are referral links. I do get a kickback and stuff like that. I get gift certificates and stuff. It's really cool. Yeah, so that's it. War of the Worlds. Check it out. That is it from me to you for now. So until next time, thanks for watching, and keep watching the skies.